We with Nick Bosa, we all feel like what the type of player Nick Bosa is, right?
Yeah,
and just a
really good player.
Monster, animal, savage.
Over the last 2 seasons, though, there's only one player in the league that has had more pressures than Nick Bosa.
That'd be Micah Parsons?
Is that your guess?
If it's not him, I guess it would be Max Crosby of the Raiders.
Well, those are really, really good guesses, Walter. I'd probably go Parsons as well, but just for the sake, I'll go Myles Garrett. Give me a little MG.
I'm going to go with my guy Tank.
The Micah Parsons is the one. Micah Parsons has had 103, and Nick Bosa has had 93 over the last 2 seasons.
Over the last 2 seasons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last 2 seasons. So
fantastic.
It is fantastic. When you start to talk about defensive tackle pressures, now this is from the 49ers.
Oh, Hargrave.
Oh, Hargrave.
It's Hargraves.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, Hargraves. I mean, the leaders so far in 2023 have been Hargraves, our guy Carter, Jalen Carter from the Eagles, Allen from the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
But a new name on this list. Would you like to guess the new name on this list?
It better not be Javon Kinlaw.
I'm going to go Osa Odigizua.
Yeah, it's Osa Odigizua. He's got 9 is what he's got.
My guy.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so when you start to talk about defensive tackle, quarterback pressures, Hargrave, Carter, Allen, Osa Odigizua are your top 4 when it comes to that.
So it's just NFC dominance.
Tank's also been crushing it. I remember I ran across a number of him, and he's also been amongst the top in pass rush win rate so far this year. Not pressures, but just pass rush win rate.
Yeah, I was asked today, Derek Eagleton asked me what defensive player do you feel like has had, well, with the exception of Micah. You could always put Micah as your name of your guy that, okay,
he's the top dog.
Who's the guy that through 4 games has shown you, blah, 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 all that. But if you had to pick a defensive player, who would you pick as your guy other than Micah Parsons that you feel like has had a really good start to this season?
I mean, Duron Bland.
Sure. I mean, especially after this game.
The other day was his second start, right?
Yeah.
He had
at the boundary.
Yeah. So, I mean, Bland was one of them that he mentioned.
I mean, week 1, he started in the slot and also crushed.
Yeah. I think the thing that, to me, when you start, I mentioned Osa.
Yeah. I think Osa and Tank.
I think he's been, and Tank's another one.
Because Tank's your best run defender. And I mean, like that Jets game when they put him on the other side, that was amazing. But I'm with you on Osa, and that was a guy that we talked about.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like when you start to talk about consistency throughout the 4 games, Osa's been the guy that's done the best job of playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
he's done a really nice job. Okay, this is 49er talk again. Brock Purdy was blitzed by the Giants. He was blitzed at the highest rate that they've ever had at Next Gen Stats in that era.
Wow. Get him, Wink.
Yeah, this past weekend, though, against the Cardinals, he was only blitzed 13% of the time on his dropbacks, and the 49ers won 35-16. Tell me what you think about this. Blitz him or not blitz him? First, no blitz. He was 17 of 18 for 262 yards. First, the blitz, he was 3 for 3 for 21 yards. He was, like I say, he was blitzed 84% of the time in his dropbacks in week 3 against the Giants. How would you, and I'll talk about it, on Thursday, but how would you like to see the Cowboys play Brock Purdy in this game? Do you want a quick death or you want a slow death?
We need tacklers and we need coverage. So I will take the slow death. I'm going to force him to go underneath, and we're going to rally to the football and tackle. I don't think, even though it's year 2 and he's Mr. Irrelevant, blitzing is going to get Brock Purdy off of his game. You can do that with a lot of young quarterbacks, but not him.
Yeah, and situationally, maybe you look at it, you dial it up, but I agree completely. Tackling is a premium, and I think the clog and cover method, which we've talked about, maybe has caused Dak some problems in the past. I think that's the way that you go ahead and attack Brock Purdy, and I think you can get home with 4. I don't think you're going to need to send a ton of pressure. I think you can get pressure on Brock Purdy with 4 guys, and he is a guy that you don't think of as the most mobile, but if he sees green, much like we saw from Jared Goff do this year, he will take off and go ahead and get a chunk of 6 to 10 yards for you.
Yeah, I'll die slow for sure. And the Cowboys are built to be the team that pressures you without having to blitz. So I need to look into just how much the Cowboys have been blitzing this year, but we know they're a team that doesn't really blitz a ton traditionally here, and they get pressure with 4, and they stunt, and they do the twists and all that kind of stuff, but they don't really blitz.
Against this 49er offense, you can either get pressure or tackle really well. You can only have one. Which one you taking?
I'll tackle really well.
Yeah, I think tackling. They're such a big yak team. Like, that's what really is their bread and butter offensively.
Yeah, I think it's the tackling. Because, I mean, McCaffrey, how many plays is McCaffrey making where he's making guys miss and running through tackles? And if you can eliminate that in and of itself. And then, as you mentioned, the passing game for Kyle Shanahan is all predicated on the yak. So, and tackling guys like Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey
and Brandon Ayuk is having a breakout
and
season.
Kittle for 4 quarters, it's challenging.
It is.
So if you can come out of that game and feel like, man, we tackled our balls off today, then you probably feel good about winning.
I wonder if they unleash Izzy Mukwamu this week after he was so good in that playoff game. We haven't seen him at all. He's been an inactive. Is he a guy that maybe ends up being a chess piece for Dan Quinn?
What do you think the Rays would rather have tomorrow? The ability to play defense or hit the ball, Brian? What a clown show today,
Gosh,
Tampa.
Dude.
Talk
about a team not being ready for the moment.
Whatever, yeah.
We got a couple of rookies. We got a couple of like pre-rookies, or like at least one in Evan Carter.
I swear it looked like Bennett Broaddus' team playing when they were 12 years old out there.
The Rays.
The ball, I was like, put a 10 over that circus for sure.
Cue it up.
Yeah. Okay. How about this though? And would you say this? Well, this is something I'm worried about a little bit when this game. And
Do we agree with you? Is the question then?
You agree with me. Yeah, you did.
Big assumption.
The 49ers, how about this? The 49ers have generated the third highest pressure rate, 42%, when
pressure.
sending just 4 pass rushers this season.
Crap.
Does that worry you?
Yeah, they've got the best defensive line in the league, in my opinion, and maybe the Eagles are in contention. But with the addition of Hargrave, yes, of course it worries you, especially if you don't have Tyron. I think that Adoga's done okay. Yeah. Tyler Smith was dominant, and Zach Martin needs to be healthy. And if he's not, I hope he puts his best foot forward. But gosh, it's a little terrifying.
In order to beat the 49ers, you're going to have to keep them probably under 17 points. The offense isn't going to work. They got what it takes. They do. So if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm going into that meeting with my guys and saying, don't count on much from the offense today, guys.
Okay.
They need us to take this next step and beat San Francisco. They're doing their best. They can't get to double digits before halftime. That's going to continue. They're 4 guys, especially with no Tyron Smith. Maybe once we get to the playoffs, if the offensive line is totally healthy, we might have a chance to score 24 on them.
And I lean to agree with that. I wonder if you're going to look at them and say the same thing. You can beat them downfield. And that was an issue that we talked about after the game. Kellen Moore and the Cowboys didn't try to push the ball downfield. They had the one big play to CeeDee Lamb. Maybe this week they do attempt that a little bit more with Mike McCarthy and Schottenheimer running things.
But Ben, that's to get the ball down the field. It's about protection, right?
It is, but they've done a good job of trying to do some of that stuff with getting the ball out quickly.
Pressure with 4, getting the ball downfield. That sounds like Dak not seeing the safety to me.
Okay, here's one for you then, since you mentioned Dak not seeing the safety. Deshaun Gibson has not been targeted on any of his 96 coverage snaps this season. He's the only player in the NFL with 50 coverage snaps without a target.
What's happening? Is he locked in?
Yeah, they do not let you throw the ball in the middle of that field. That's what they do.
Yeah, they take that away.
Matter of fact, since they've had Fred Warner there since I think it was since 2018, they have consistently been the top in the league of not allowing balls in the middle
Makes
of that
sense.
field.
He's the best in the league.
Yeah. That's playing into Texas coast, though. They haven't tried too much.
No.
They've done a lot on the outside.
Yeah.
Outside the numbers.
Yeah. I think there's some point in time, though, don't you have to try it, though?
I think so. Yeah. Eventually, yes. But maybe after you spend 3.5 quarters throwing it short into the outside. And then when that middle softens up, then you take the dagger play there in the fourth quarter, hopefully is how it works.
Well, this is the game you'd like to see Brandon Cooks make the difference. That's a big reason why you brought him here, was against the 49ers, right? You needed that extra playmaker last year. You didn't have him. We've been waiting for Brandon Cooks to really kind of go ahead and make a statement, and this would be the week that you circle to say, hey, we need you.
Do you think you guys will be able to run the ball at all in this week?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
All right. That might be the path.
It could.
That might be the path.
I'd love to go back and play that game last year with Steele and Pollard.
Yeah, exactly. Gentlemen,
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Jerry Jones was on with Sean and RJ and Bobby this morning. Talked some Rangers. I'm excited for the Rangers. They're keeping us on the edge of our seats. Baseball was my true love, and I played it, and I got to play a lot of it, he added. Hope the Rangers get some good pitching. And they did today. Boy, they got a great performance from Jordan Montgomery and Aroldis Chapman as well there in the 8th inning. Tomorrow it's going to be Eovaldi, and maybe it is your year. You'll know it by about 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. If Eovaldi goes out there and looks like he was in April, May, and June pre-injury, then heck, maybe things are going to snap back in. I'm just going day to day with this deal right now with the Texas Rangers. After a big win, you hope that maybe they finally shook off the malaise that had hit them. That ain't the case. It's just a really inconsistent team right now that has a ton of talent and can score with anybody. But once you get into the postseason, like Tampa found out today, boy, your offense can tighten up and things can snowball against you. And the next thing you know, great hitters can't get on base. Go ask Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez. The history of the game is littered with dudes that arrive in the postseason and can no longer hit. So we'll hope that the Rangers continue to do it. I mean, you could even say the Rangers had a rough day at the plate today. Maybe
those
postseason pressure got to them.
Yeah, runners left on base. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, they need to cash in on that.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool, though. They got the win without having the offensive outburst. And I think that's big because in the playoffs, usually when you have an offensive outburst, it kind of uses up your scoring there. And then the next game is oftentimes quite disappointing in the production department. Jerry said he wants to use this game against San Francisco as a barometer game to gauge how good the Cowboys are compared to the standard. He said right now the Niners look like the team most likely to go and win that Super Bowl. Do you guys agree with that? Niners?
Yes, I do. And the team, I mean, listening to Michael Gallup on the way home yesterday with Brad Sham, he didn't shy away from this is a different game. This is not just your regular season game.
Please don't tell me it's just another game.
No, they want it. He said we
Jerry's
have to have
it. He called it a barometer game.
Yeah.
We know it as a measuring stick game.
It is.
And it absolutely is, at least for you, not really for them. For them, this is kind of just for the seeding and stuff, but for the Cowboys, they've been talking about San Francisco making moves to beat this team for a couple of years now, and it's like, man, they're putting everything into beating the Niners. You desperately want to do that on Sunday night. My gosh.
Yeah. It is a huge opportunity. I think the biggest thing for me is just the standings. I'm convinced you have what it takes to beat the 49ers. It's just going to be who's ever healthy, when you meet them in the playoffs. And if it's even, I feel like you got to be honest with yourself. You didn't do enough. Some of us were saying, you better get a badass offensive line. And you're like, well, we drafted Tyler Smith last year. What do you want? It's like, well, I want young offensive linemen that can pass pro and run block. And, if you don't have that, don't be surprised if that front four, whoops up on you again. And I just don't feel like the Cowboys, despite the fact they brought in Hankins to fight and brought in Smith, they haven't gotten real serious about what's beating them in these games. The defense has been enough. The defense has been physical enough. It's your ability to go get 5 yards on 3rd and 4. And you can't get a surge from your offensive line against their front still. And Dak can't be a difference maker. So, until one of those things changes, I think we know what we're in for here with even if you go win this game, you'd be thinking, okay, what have we really proven? Teams get a win and then lose against that same opponent all the time in the same division. I guess maybe it would prove to you that, oh, yeah, we can play with this team. I get that.
Yeah, I think it's important. I just go back to the 2014 game where that Seattle team was as dominant as they were on defense, and you to go in there and run the ball, physically beat them up. I think that gave you a lot of confidence going forward the rest of the season. Like, well, if we can run the ball on these guys and move the ball and score points, we could score on anybody. We can move. This is an important game, I think, in that regard. I don't think the Cowboys want to go into this game, and if they get curb stomped and they get to the point where now it's you get a rematch late in the year, that they have to answer all those questions again.
Yeah, because psychologically, you're immediately going to be thinking about the downside of everything in that game. Like, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah.
If you lose this one.
You immediately turn to, like, you went to Levi and you didn't handle that situation very well again.
Yeah.
I think I think this is a huge game for the Cow. I think it's a huge game for Dak Prescott. I think Dak
Yes, it
Prescott
is.
has got to go out there and to win this game. He might have to play. Dak Prescott's going to have to play like he did in that playoff game against Tampa Bay. For them to win this game.
Yeah.
He's just going to have to.
I think the thing with Seattle and the thing with Tampa last year, those teams had taken a big step back to the pack, and then you kicked their ass.
Yeah.
This is the team right now, San Francisco. And you will beat them when they have injuries or they have spent so much on the salary cap that they got to have a cap casualty off season. And until that happens right now, I'm looking at the matchup and, it's fairly clear. You need them to get hurt, and I'm not wishing for that if you're going to beat them in the playoffs.